Hello everybody, this is Video Game Growing Pains, and I'm bringing you another game review. Lately, I've become kind of obsessed with a game called Sunless Sea, so I'd like to give you a little explanation about this. Sunless Sea is an interesting exploration game where you take the role of a sea captain in a strange underground ocean beneath the surface of the Earth. Far beneath it, actually. There's a very strange mythos going on, but what I like about the game is a little bit more than just the story or the mythos, but we'll get there. So, let's talk about some Sunless Sea. The game is interesting in that it's mostly story-driven, but it uses minimalistic gameplay stylings to try and give you a feeling of control. The game basically is divided into two different segments. The first, which we're looking at right here, is the logbook segment. Here we can talk about different story aspects, go to a tattoo parlor, visit the Admiralty to get reports or to get fuel. We can talk to different people. We have our hold, where we can examine our ship, examine what everything does. And you may notice, whenever you hover over something, a helpful little pop-up screen appears to tell you what it does. Your ship holds your curiosities, which you can exchange for goods or money or for stats. And it also holds items you can trade. We also have our officers, who have their own stories. They give us a nice stat bonus, and they're very interesting people to talk to. Especially this little ferret guy. Look at him. Look at him. He doesn't like me at all. No, he doesn't. Aside from that, you can also go to shops at each place you visit, provided they have something to sell. And you can buy ships if your port has a shipyard. Most of the story interaction is read, so you're going to have to do a lot of reading in this game, and most of it takes place from your logbook. When you get into port, you'll check your logbook and do all the things that need to be done. That's the first part of the game. Second part involves sailing the underground ocean, or they call the Z. Sailing the Z is a mixed experience, I'll be honest. You have some combat, admittedly, but it's incredibly simplistic. You sight an enemy, you keep it in your lights so that you can get your guns to go up to 100% accuracy. Then you shoot them and loot corpses. Now, I just killed a tiny crab, but the enemies can get really crazy, where to the point you're even fighting a giant mountain, and it can be really tense and scary at times. You may also notice that when looting the crab, I managed to reduce hunger. The game has, while you're sailing, three key aspects: fuel, supplies, and terror. Fuel is how much your ship can go. That includes your light and how fast you go. Hunger is how much your crew can eat. And terror is how insane you're going from the sheer madness of being out in this crazy, demonic, eldritch world. You want to keep all of these in check. Unfortunately, the sailing has a lot of really high moments, but also a lot of downtime. Sometimes you will find some amazing sights that you can see, like the Grand Geode or the Dawn Machine. These really get to show off the art style, which is in many ways very beautiful. It's overhead, but they managed to give a lot of detail and a lot of very classic Victorian style beauty to an almost alien world. And then, well, then there's the long boats doing nothing. See what we're doing right now? Just sailing? Nothing happening? Yeah, this happens for a lot of the game. You'll be doing nothing a lot. Now, your ship does have some different options. For example, you can check on your crew at the top. You can check on your stats. Each of them's a little vague, but you'll get the hang of them. And you can check on some of the things your ship can do, like sending out a Z-Bat to look for land, repairing, pausing, checking your charts, like right here. Shows you where I am and where I've discovered. Checking your logbook, your gazetteer, and just getting back to the ocean, preparing for battle. But most of this is going to be just sailing on an empty sea. There will only be ambient sound effects a lot of the time because music is very common only when you're near to port. Speaking about that, let me give you a second to listen to the music here. The music is really amazing in this game. What makes it amazing, ironically, are these long periods of downtime, though, because you are so unused to the feeling of music or companionship. It's a very lonely experience out in the Z, and in many ways that's what's interesting about it. You will never get a more realistic experience of exploration into the unknown. You don't know if around the next bend is the giant mushroom which has supplies and food for you, or the giant crab which is going to eat your face off. There's a lot of terror, but a lot of beauty and elegance to the world, and that's one of the reasons I love it. You can be affected by the weather, you can be affected by random events. It's very compelling in that way. The game for me has a magic that's very special. I played a lot of Uncharted Waters growing up, a game where you would sail in the age of exploration, trade, find new ports, and all of this would get you money and status, and you could use it to advance yourself. Sunless Sea is like that, but it's got a much more story-heavy focus. All of your officers have stories, and you create your own story through trading, through the people you meet. Back in your journal when we talked earlier, you can check on your objectives, and you can also check on the people and the stories that you're involved with and how to keep them going. Now, there's one thing I haven't talked about, and it's really important, and that is the death system. Now, I can't show you death here because it's a real big pain in the ass to actually undo, but death in Sunless Sea comes in two varieties. The first is your legacy deaths. Legacy deaths are how the game is meant to be played. The game autosaves, and if you die, you lose everything and start out from the beginning. But you can carry on a few of your stats and some of your money or some of your guns or some of your officers and take them with you with your next officer and start fresh again. This does mean you have to experience a lot of the same events over and over again, but the landscape and the chart you have change every playthrough. Some things will be close by, but a lot of the islands are going to be different, so each experience is slightly different, and you also get a lot of different random events each time you play. I find this to be really compelling. Now, if you want, you can turn on the manual save, but I find the tense exploration to be really moving and compelling. Once you start to figure out how the game works, where you can trade, some of the errands you can run to get startup money, and some of the things you can do to not be broke, the game really opens up and you will be very interested in sailing to those uncharted waters beyond what you're used to. Seeing all of the strange sights, being chased down by monsters and outrunning dreadnoughts and flagships from local admiralties. It really is a feeling of intense joy as each new exploration leads to new, terrifying, and often beautiful or hilarious things. I mean, I can't show it all here because this is my third playthrough and I've lost a lot of progress, but you have islands full of rats fighting guinea pigs, you have a place where mushroom wine is brewed, you have a place full of crazy shepherds who love to tell tales. There's a lot to find out there. You have an ancient hold where the king of the ocean resides, and an island full of postmen. It's pretty wacky. And the game balances beautiful art, intense moments of terror as, the unforeseen happens, and some very striking design in a very minimalistic structure. The game is very slow at times. You can't really minimize it very well because, well, if you leave your crew unattended, you're going to get eaten by a sea monster, or you're going to fall into a vortex, or you're going to hit land and you're going to die. But if you can get around some of the slow parts, the game has an incredible amount of detail and a lot of story to tell you. Your logbook changes every time you go to a new area, and it's very moving and compelling. Honestly, I'd recommend this to anyone who loves exploration, loves sailing and ocean-based games, and who's a big fan of Lovecraft or Pratchett. The game's got a lot of Lovecraftian elements, the horror of the unknown, slowly losing madness, but it's also very wacky and zany at times. Not wacky and zany like a cartoon, but sort of like Terry Pratchett's dry wit and humor. Sort of like someone gets a pie in the face, but they don't actually act like they notice it. Very dry, very clever humor. Overall, I really enjoy Sunless Sea, and I've been playing it for, God, almost 50 hours so far, and I've got no interest in stopping now. It's an amazing experience that I really would recommend for anyone who's looking for a new story to find, theirs or others. Anyway, that's my Sunless Sea review. Catch you later, everybody.